Hello everyone, I'm ImKibitz and welcome back to Satisfactory. After many weeks of working on this giant nuclear project, we have hit a major milestone of automating uranium fuel rods. And with all the systems and infrastructure we've built, we're able to produce 50.4 per minute. At least once we get the Mark 6 belts. So, this complete, reactors complete, which means we can move on to the next stage. Plutonium. So the goal is to automate all of the fuel rods, the uranium, plutonium, and then later on, fixonium fuel rods. So getting to this stage will make our lives a lot easier. Most of the work was in the setup, and now that's done, we can run through this and then tech up to tier 9. So what do we have to do here? Well, we actually have the sulfuric acid. So next order of operations is making non-fissile uranium. Takes uranium waste, silica, nitric acid, and sulfuric acid. And after a little bit more processing, we encase that into plutonium cells. Those plutonium cells get put together into plutonium fuel rods, and with the plutonium fuel rods, we can send them into the reactors. And that's when I plan to boot up the entire power plant. Though we will have a little problem of making quite a bit of plutonium waste. Future Kibs can figure that out. It'll be fine. And present Kibs gotta get rocking and rolling here. One thing I did off camera was I decorated the interior of our logistics building for the uranium fuel rods. Looks pretty decent. All right, moving on. Next, I kind of forgot to do something pretty important. I didn't belt the uranium waste to where it needs to go. We need to bring it from the reactors through our control building here so we can monitor it easily, and then to wherever we're gonna process the non-fissile stuff. But we do have the belts of waste coming up this way. I think these are belts of 750 waste per minute each, something crazy like that. Yeah, now I just have to find the inputs into our control building. It's kind of fun to decode what past Kibs was doing, but I think most inputs and outputs were right over here. What is this? Is this an output? Okay. Is that for the uranium waste? What is this? 600 in? What? What does this mean? Both in and out for 20? Okay, thankfully we're not dealing with fluids yet, but here we go. The normal uranium out. So the only thing we have to figure out then is where to input the uranium waste. What does this say? That is emergency waste out, okay. This is normal waste in TLP waste. Top left, plutonium waste. Oh, the riddles of past Kibs have been deciphered. Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. We'll just bring the waste from over by those reactors, over this area, down here, over to there, goes through the entire building, out to the other side, where we can throw it into our processing facilities. So no big deal, just takes a little bit of time, meaning we can move on. And we're gonna be making some new Coolio blueprints with some blenders. I am very excited to work with these because with this recipe in particular, the top of the blender is this really cool, like, forbidden Kool-Aid blue. So these are gonna be a very prominent feature. And also, again, it's the first stage in our plutonium processing, so it's a whole new journey. Numbers though, big. Each blender can deal with 37.5 uranium waste per minute. Well, we're making a lot of that uranium waste. We're making 2,520. So that means we need 70 blenders. Woo! But overclocking, more manageable, 27. Just means we have to use one of our few last power shards. We have 37, we've got about 220 left or something like that. Yikes. But it gets to be done. But anyway, design-wise, we're going to follow the same procedure as we did with the manufacturers, where we have the manufacturers raised up, and then we deal with a lot of the logistics underneath. Plus, we cannot hide the forbidden Kool-Aid. The forbidden Kool-Aid is life. It protects us from the uranium waste. So let's take a look here. What's going on under the hood? Well, this is gonna be a little difficult because we have 4 inputs and 2 outputs. That's gonna be a lot of belts and things running around down here. And on top of this, we need to make the design stackable. Like I wanna make the blueprints right next to each other. So we'd have 2 here, 2 next to it, etc., etc., etc. And I don't wanna have to fiddle with too much belt work underneath. So with the items, it's only 2 solids. Oh, but then there's a solid output. Wait, that's tricky. You know what? When I run into a problem that's really quite difficult, usually I just start with something and I hope a solution kind of works its way in here. All right, well, number one, if this has to be stackable, we have to have a splitter here. So this will be kind of the overflow splitter. That can go over into the next system. This splitter will be for distributing the items to the machines above. Next, we gather the goods. Connect to your respective splitters. And look at that, first thing done. Next is the pipes. Definitely need to keep these organized. And now the problems really start. Oh my god, there's a lot of problems here, I'm starting to realize. Okay. Again, this needs to be stackable, so we'd have to have a splitter here, or a pipeline junction. Thankfully, in update 1.1, you can move these on the horizontal axis. But again, this needs to be the main overflow for the whole system. Then it needs to diverge into another splitter, merger, whatever, like so. Scoot to, come on, there, up to there. That worked out great. Then we have to get to the other side over there. Brother, please. There's only one thing that can save us. Straight pipe build mode. Just like with the belts now, we can now build straight pipes. Over to here. And then we go back to horizontal. Connect up to there. Do we do that to beta? Like a little bit, but it's still pretty, yuck. Maybe I'll fix it in the future. Kind of caused myself another problem though, because now I got rid of this belt, and here we go. Oh. The pipes here, A, connect, but B, we can't build on the ground here, because we'll also want belts connecting to the next system as well. Oh, the plot thickens.
Kibitz though, Kibitz. This will be underground. You could just clip the belts. Clip the belts. They're like omnidirectional belts. It all makes sense, Kibitz. Just clip the belts. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Never! I came very, very close. Dealing with all this down here was frustrating, very frustrating, until I came up with a radical new idea. Instead of having all of the belt overflow stuff underneath here, where we have all of these pipes and spaghetti going all over the place, instead it's gonna be up by the blenders, which I've decorated a bit, and added all the inputs and outputs right here. So now beside this blueprint we build, we'll have a building that distributes all the items. It'll be a bit more visual, deals with the spaghetti issues down here, and I think it'll look pretty cool. And off and around, I just did some light details, trying to make it so the blenders were more attached to the blueprint. Like I wanted this to look better than just...
Hard work pays off.
Thanks, Ada. What was I saying? I want this to look better than just a building sitting on a platform. I want to integrate the building with the platform. So that's why I've added in some like beams around the surface, this bar through the middle here, and that kind of stuff. Did I really succeed? Not exactly, to be honest. But it's not bad. I like it. Oh, but the horrifying realization I had when building this. There is a byproduct with the non-fissile uranium. The water. I didn't even think about this at all. We're gonna be making like 1,000 extra water per minute, which seems like a good thing, right? It's not a good thing, it's a bad thing. At least in my experience. You see, I've built some nuclear power plants in the past that have had problems. And one of those problems was using that byproduct water to like run reactors, or maybe make sulfuric acid, or what have you. Like I used it in critical production. But then that introduces a huge problem wherein if this system doesn't work perfectly, then the next systems that rely on this system working perfectly don't work well either. And long story short, it causes problems. Now I'm more experienced, I'm a little bit more wise, so I could mitigate those problems. But for a nuclear power plant, I just am gonna try and dodge all of them. So what we're gonna do is we're going to collect all of the water in this water pipe that scoots through here, connects to both the machines, should be all fine. It's in a chrome pipe because all of that water is going to be disposed of. And my favorite way to dispose of water is by using it in a refinery to make wet concrete. The idea with this is not to actually care about the concrete. It's that this machine can use up a ton of water along with a cheap resource to something that is sinkable. Then we just send that concrete into an awesome sink and the water is gone. Because the awesome sink doesn't take fluids, only items. You can do the same thing with all of the other recipes, like maybe you want to make iron. It's not as efficient to get rid of the water, but still, you turn the water into a solid good, which can be synced, effectively getting rid of the water. So that's the plan. We'll keep it in the chrome pipe, then ship it off to the awesome sink. Billy, so what's next on the agenda? That's right, Billy. We have to figure out how to make this all look pretty. We have a very nice power plant here, and we now have forbidden Kool-Aid to mess around with. And more important than that is that this is the last opportunity to use blenders in the whole plant. So I want them to stand out a lot. And I've been saving this spot for a while, but we're going to try and fit as many of these blenders right over there, right beside our main control room. It will be a very large, prominent, awesome looking build. So pressure's on. Let's see how many we can throw in here. Does it actually look cool? Okay, so we can have some here. And then we'd mirror the blueprint over there. Oh, but that's cutting into existing infrastructure. Oh, and also, we can't just build them right next to each other. We need a bit of space to deal with all the inputs and outputs. Again, it's like 4 inputs, outputs. Wait, geez. Long story short, we're gonna need at least a tile in between here. And as for this problem, well, I guess we're going uppies, eh? I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong with this. Well, we at least can fit everything here. The design challenges around these belt highways is gonna be annoying. That's okay. But for the big question, how many of these blueprints can we fit? And it's looking like 8 on one side, and we'll be able to fit another 8 on the other. So 16 of the 27 we need. Okay, that's not bad. It's kind of bad, but it's okay. It's not okay. A big thing is if we can't put a lot of these blenders together, the belt work to hook these all up, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. We have so many different inputs and outputs to have to drag around. You know how it is, the rule of cool, bud. And this, I can see it looking cool. In fact, oh my gosh, I've never done this before. I have never been able to make a ceiling look so like busy and like crazy like this. This is actually amazing. Oh my, this is neat. I could have like a walking path going through here. Then we can look up and see all the shenanigans. Oh yeah, bud, this is something else. It's kind of almost a shame that the interior looks so amazing, but I need the exterior to look amazing, right? But okay, bonus objective time. We gotta get a walkway through there, no matter what. Ideally a couple windows so we can see what's going on. I almost don't wanna even put those in a building. But we already have so much crazy belt work going on down here. If you have too much craziness going on, then it all is like a jumbled mess. You gotta strike like a really fine balance. So I'll hum and haw about some designs for a couple hours until I figure out something. Ooh, actually, one second. Billy, we're gonna do a quick experiment before we do some design work. If I decouple my camera, what happens if I die? Do I just watch myself die? Oh, goodbye, me. This is really weird. I did not realize how big Billy was. Am I dead? Oh, well, Billy is. Me? Hello? Oh, we're so back. It just auto-linked me back to my body. The devs thought of everything. Didn't they, Billy? Yes, they did. Here, have a treat. You'll love it. Oh. Well, that's different. But okay, maybe I should not have gotten myself hit in the head before going into a decorative phase. What do you guys think? Smiley face. With all the pipes and all that jazz, I was like, oh, the pipes are colorful, they're fun. Let's try and have them be very prominent. So I forced them to be down like the middle of the building. But then for the both sides, it's like, well, what do I do? One side is covered in belts. So it's like a little window, we can see what's happening, smiley face. Then for the other side, I was like, lights. Lights are nice, it's plutonium. To be fair, like from afar, it does look okay. I don't want freaking okay. I want some YouTube screenshots. This has to be perfect. Oh boy. You know, a lot of people always ask me, Kibz, what keeps you so motivated to do all this crazy stuff? It takes you hours and weeks. Brr, 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 brr. And you know, it's because dealing with the machines is easy. I did all the math for like the whole game in a bunch of spreadsheets, and I know practically exactly what to do. What really kind of sets me back is the creative designs, like making cool aesthetics work with all the numbers. Like the numbers, again, they're one thing, but making it aesthetically pretty, whole extra ball game. But it was the same process with the main control building as well. Went through a variety of different designs until we got to this one. And one piece of advice that I always go to is from, I think it's Stephen King. He was talking to George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones. And George was like, how do you write so much? And King responded with something along the lines of, I just write, even if it's just a little bit, and just go from there. Usually once you just get started with something, continuing to work on the project gets a lot easier. Also not being afraid to start again, like sometimes that's just how it goes. Plus in Satisfactory, if you press G, there's a dismantle filter. So now when we go to dismantle everything, we only dismantle the things we want. So that it's not like catastrophic damage where like I accidentally delete like a blender or something like that, right? That would be absolutely terrible. No! XD loaded a backup, everything's fine. In fact, better than fine, because after many more hours of work and tinkering, I have a beautiful design for that building. Check her out, eh? Mixing together some of like the angles that we had before, then with the big light on the left, it's like, oh, but 1 + 1, get 2. Too good of a design. Looks better than our main control room almost, which is almost kind of a problem. But no, it mixes in well. I like how the angles kind of give it a little bit more character. The extra vertical lights kind of mix with the heat sink design on top of our control center there. And I was able to use the new vents to fill in some dead space. But even with how cool the exterior looks, I'm more excited to show you the interior. Got a huge window to just see a little bit what's going on. But then when you're actually in the fray, it's like, whoa. Got the path through here a little raised off the floor because we still had to do the logistics of bringing the items in. And how it works now is we'll have all of the items enter from the wall here, go on in through a series of splitters, and because we had the floor space to work with, just did all of that belt work initially down here and connected it up to the blueprints from below. So initially, the whole idea was totally flipped, where instead of having the items actually go in through the top, well, yeah, now we have a cool sub-basement. Some of the items kind of work up here though. Like the pipes, I like the colors of the pipes, so I left that stuff mostly dealt with on top. And then the outputs I wanted to see too. So the outputs come on up, but then they go back down underneath the platform over here and are organized. And brought somewhere. Where did I bring them? They go over here. I tried to clip in some of these conveyor floor lifts to go through the angles because this was strange. And then all the non-fissile uranium joins in with a belt bus to go off to space. Or really, where we're probably gonna deal with the rest of our plutonium stuff. But first, we still have a lot of non-fissile uranium to process. We only built like half the blenders up there, and we still need to build another like 11, 12-ish. After working on that for so long, I now know exactly where I wanna build the extra blenders. They're going to be right in here, just in a big old row. It'll be a little bit lower down, so as to not block off the decorations for this building. This is just some uranium fuel rod production. And then we'll be able to see them from afar without something taller blocking the view. Cause a couple things to have to be moved, like power poles, goodbye. This random belt can go literally anywhere else. Thanks. The big concern is, can we actually fit the blueprint in here? We can. The problem I'm seeing is, I don't like how we have this flat wall facing kind of the open air. This project is too visually important. Like, we're gonna be seeing these all of the time. So I spent a couple more hours completely redesigning the system. So instead of having the blenders facing towards each other, they're now back to back. So then we see the front of the blender and all like the cool movement and stuff going on here. We have some walking paths through here. The pipe work is dealt with up here, and then the belts, they'll overflow through the bottom. Some of you might wonder, but Gibbs, you have so much space, like right up here. Why didn't you just have the belts up here too? There's a lot of problems with that. But if we have the belts here, we'd have to have a splitter, right? And if we have a splitter at this height, no problem. And then I also want to have a walkway. And then if we had a splitter that's any higher, it would clip with the walkway. And I can't have the walkway any higher because then it would be taller than the bowls. I like the mixing bowl. The mixing bowl has to stand out. The mixing bowl is life. Have to have the mixing bowl up top or else it ruins the aesthetic. Since I couldn't move that, yeah, belts go underneath. And there's probably like other options we could have done with the belts, but this is how I built it, smiley face. And if you want to change it or improve it, guess what? The blueprints will all be available on Patreon. The vibes are good, and we already know the spacing works out, so now we just have to plug it in and hope it actually looks as good as I want it to. So far, absolutely phenomenal. Without even extra belt work or decorating, this just was clearly the choice. Very glad I spent the time on this. Just have to connect these blueprints together and stuff like that. But overall, oh, look at this. This is great. Has some extra walking areas, some ladders to get to the top deck. How's my Kool-Aid? No, for real, do not drink slurries of acids and radioactive material. Not good for the bones. But do remember to leave a like and subscribe. Lots to do on this project still. But not this, because we have completed the last of the blenders. Added in the nice blue light underneath here, encased it in some beams. But that is the whole enchilada. Big thing now is just to belt and pipe it all together, which is again gonna be a turbo nightmare. Uranium waste, silica, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, ugh. Let's start with the raid boss, the uranium waste. And as we discovered earlier, we bring it out through this way. I belted it over here, up to there, and onto these belts going into random direction. But now, we know where the uranium waste is ending up. Somewhere over there, and then up there. One thing we need to do before we send it into our system, though, is I want to balance it out. We're gonna build a load balancer. A 5-to-5 load balancer, which might be a little tricky. Thankfully, Satisfactory has been out for many years, and many people have built load balancers kind of like this, where essentially what they did was they combined two 3-to-3 balancers, and once all that was balanced, they started mixing and matching. And to make sure all of the belts are balanced, i.e. the 5 inputs here are 5 equal outputs over here, the big thing that I was seeing was that one of these mergers at the very end of the line has to enter the system way back here. So long as we have that built and we can connect up everything else, we're good to go. We'd have this balance line go to a splitter, not a merger. Hold Alt, there we go. And then have this merge into different stacks. So that goes to that. This goes to there, then we go to the next splitter. Same kind of deal, but eventually things start to go a little awry when you run out of space. But with the power of creativity, we persevere. Yeah, it gets a little crazy, but luckily there's the whole sky to build up into, and with conveyor lifts and such, we made it work. The 5 equal belts end up over here, and then end up at the same destination just over this way on this belt highway. But now we can send a couple of those belts up to there to make our non-fissile uranium. But
This doesn't look super good.
we're just gonna put it in a box, okay? Okay. Then from there we're on easy street. Just bouncing and belting over the silica, organizing and piping all of the acids, being with the water while doing some touch-up work, balancing the systems to make sure the right amount of things go to the right places, dealing with the excess water, and also finding another source of limestone, and then just hooking up everything in such a way that none of the belts or the pipes overflow with too many items because we need thousands for all of the systems, but it's fine. Just a million little steps, barely an inconvenience. And with that, another major stage of the project is complete. So that'll be all for now. But again, if you enjoyed, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more. And until next time, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.